Welcome to Worlds Cooldown after some pretty intense games today. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm Jat, joined by Dracos and Ender. Let this be a lesson in the world. Yeah. No one beats Clutch 3 times. Not TSM. They won the first 2. No, I'm just kidding.
That about CLG.
That was close.
For Europe and America, Jat, I'm wondering why are we even playing plans? Clear, dominant 4-0 group stages. Completely uncontested at the top of the standings.
Yeah, I mean,
smooth sailing from start to finish.
Let's take another look at this Clutch Gaming versus UOL matchup, and you'll see from the early game, really, Clutch Gaming improved.
As long as we look at this one game, the dream is alive.
The third chance for them obviously working out with some good fights around some objectives, but also I think earlier on than that in the top lane too is where Huni and Lear both were able to get out to a little bit of a lead and ultimately should have taken this game super easily. I'm not going to say that this was a close game by any means, but at the end it did feel like there was almost some room for UOL to come back.
Yeah, 2 plays just went disastrously wrong for UOL in the top lane that ended up giving Huni kills early and then Demonte a double kill later in the game. And even this game, you know, super smooth. Vladimir was never
a problem.
And really just a crisp closeout for a Clutch Gaming 3 seed.
This was like single-handedly, I think, the most stressful day of games.
Wow.
We had 8 games today.
A multitude of regions, EU and NA amongst them, and just I mean, Jat, we started the day casting in just a weird series of games. Never did the expected favorite come out on top. I think from my perspective, I expected Clutch to come back, turn things around, adapt the second time they faced UOL. It took a third time, but you know, third try.
Well, that was sort of the weirdest thing, too, because it felt like in the regular group play before the tiebreakers, everything was going absolutely backwards, with Unicorns of Love taking Clutch Gaming 2-0. Then we're like, surely if they can beat Clutch...
Lower seed only beat the higher seed in every single game of Group A until the tiebreakers.
So I just want to know.
It was clearly accurately seeded.
Well, no, that's just not true, because Mammoth would have beat Clutch using that logic.
Did they, though? Look at the standings, Ender.
If they'd had the chance in the tiebreakers.
Yeah, and I mean, Dracos, your point, like after today's games with the dust being settled, right? Splice and Isurus advancing Group B, Clutch and UOL advanced to Group A, and if you didn't watch play-ins and you just look in the seeds, you would just assume things went completely to chalk. But they really didn't, right? We saw a major region drop 2 games, an NA or EU major region drop, or just NA drop 2 games in the group stage for the first time, barely win the tiebreaker game. The Splice games against DFM, they dropped one of them and then had a real tough one against Isurus towards the end of the day. Ender, what were your thoughts?
Well, I think it's interesting because everyone expected, you know, Clutch Gaming to come out first, Splice to come out first, but I felt like there was some hesitation in terms of like hope for these teams coming in. You look at EU and it felt like the top 2 teams were significantly better than a Splice. Clutch Gaming, for a large part of 2019, you would not have considered as the 3rd best team in the region. So these teams did come in here with, I think, some lower expectations than we saw maybe of 3rd seeds in previous years. But at the end of the day, they were able to prove that they still are the better teams.
And I think for me, looking especially at Splice and Clutch in this case, you know, you hear Demonte, he's like, hey, I think we learned you ban Heimer and that solves all the problems. I don't think that solves all the problems. Heimer wasn't
every single one. I don't.
The summation of the problems.
Really, Heimer's just impossible to deal with, Dracos.
Yeah, and I don't think full tank Hecarim was the sole source of problems for Splice. Like, I'm actually very concerned for both these teams heading into best of 5s, and more importantly, if they can win their best of 5s heading into group stage. The good news is they've probably identified a lot of those problems now. The bad news is it honestly looks like there's a lot of problems.
Yeah, I'm concerned as well, and I don't think it's a given that Clutch Gaming or Splice win their bracket stage game for knockout when you're thinking they're going to be facing one of the 3 teams from Group C or Flamengo or Royal Youth. From the level we've seen in a lot of these play-ins, a lot of these teams can compete. But I do want to take just a quick moment. We're saying goodbye to Mammoth and Detonation Focus Me. I feel like both of them actually had some highlight moments. Detonation Focus Me taking Isurus to a 60-plus minute game, which could have given them 2 wins and kept their season alive, and Mammoth winning 2 games. What kind of just stood out to you about either one of those teams as we send them off?
Yeah, for me, looking at Detonation Focus Me, obviously everyone will remember the win against Splice as well, which I think was a very clear idea of they wanted to come in with relatively easy to execute composition. You know, they brought out the Gallium Nocturne, which I think is the first time we've seen that at Worlds so far, and put a lot of money on Utapon. So I felt like when they were playing like a very standard composition, they actually looked pretty strong. They also tried to bring in some of their flair with the unique picks, like the Nocturne mid lane, the Ziggs mid lane, some Undying compositions with Kayle as well. So it was interesting to see sometimes the creative picks not actually working for them, but then when they went into much more standard and easier to execute compositions, I felt like they looked a lot better.
Yeah, and for me, Evi's Gnar was fantastic. It's been a long time since I've seen Gnar be the kind of the peak that you expect it to be when you pick it in draft, where it can be a bit of a lane bully. It can transition into being a powerhouse in team fights, and it felt like Evi pulled that off. You saw it in some of the clips in the Splice game, knocking the Kennen back, ensuring the rest of his team was safe, and he was a real hero for DFM, and just incredible to watch him. And on the opposite side for Mammoth, I think, you know, it was a very up and down tournament. We got to cast the crazy 9K Xayah team fight, so shout outs to King for that one.
I gotta say, King would have Mammoth's probably highlight of this when they were able to beat Unicorns, go up 2-1, play defense for actually 32 minutes. That is something pro teams haven't been able to do successfully for about a year and a half and actually turn it around for games. It seems like they always crack during the turtle. But they pulled it off. He had that invincible team fight. I think it was 8-0 or 9-0 on the Xayah in that fight. And it ended in a very disappointing moment for Mammoth, but the fact that they won 2 games, as did the other 2 teams in this group, and then just losing out in tiebreakers, I'm sure most of the O's fans have probably just turned off the stream because they're upset and disappointed because they were so close yet again, but it is something that you can hope to build on. Like, they actually had some good stuff happen.
And like the future of the region too, I think, like, for me, a special shout out has to be given to Fudge. You know, 17 years old, first real big international event. This guy has not played that many stage games.
Only
in the
17.
First place.
Yeah,
he's only 17 years old.
We were joking backstage. He's like, he's probably thinking about his calculus homework right now.
Yeah,
how far back was pre-calc? I guess he's 17. Sorry, give him a lot of credit. He's probably like, when I get home, how much work is piled up for me in the school year?
Yeah,
that's how young this guy is. He's probably got to juggle both things, and just honestly, Fudge, I think, had a lot of difficult moments, but also had a ton of highlight moments. The amount of dives that he was able to 1-for-1 impossible situations or walk out alive when he definitely should have died was really cool to watch.
Yeah, actually, an incredibly entertaining day of games, even if the results are like nothing happened. Tomorrow's schedule, as you can see right here, we're going to get to see Damwon go up against Royal Youth again. They said they were at 10 out of 100 in that first day, and that was with Nuguri, I'm going to quote LS here, being like the banker from Monopoly on Vladimir in game 1.
Was he cheating or something? Because he had way too much money.
In that first game, just going absolutely crazy. And then I think the highlight game from yesterday that we're going to get to see tomorrow is going to be the Royal Youth versus Flamengo game rematch.
So Damwon's a really interesting team, just looking at how they performed on game 1, because everything that you sort of expected to happen to this team happened. You know, it's about the solo lanes, creative early jungling, bot lane is maybe an issue, but I felt like it got blown out of proportion, especially for the play-in stage. I didn't think bot lane was actually going to be a problem for these guys, but then it turned out bot lane was a serious problem, but at the same time, Nuguri looked even better than I thought he was going to perform.
Yeah, and look, for me, Nuguri's so good. Showmaker's so good. Canyon has fantastic moments. The bot lane is there. This team, I expect them to come out on top. The real battle that you already brought up.
These guys.
Can
they do this again?
Flamingo versus Royal. BRTT Draven. If this is the time that Brazil moves on to best of 5s and beats the TCL and Turkey to do so, that is huge for this region. I kind of hope BRT gets Draven again. I don't know if they are going to get it. I don't think Zoe's going to go over to Goku, but that's the rematch I'm really excited for.
It's a big rivalry, and we know the Flamengo fans are out in force.
Flamengo.
I was wondering if you... It's Flamengo.
Flamengo.
It may seem like you said Flamingo, but please, I know you said Flamengo.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't say Flamingo on accident 100 times.
It may
a million times.
Like Splice looked a little shaky, but in fact, if you check, they did advance as the #1 seed. So if you missed any of the action today, be sure to stay tuned for our rebroadcast and see this again. It starts in just a few minutes, and that's going to be all for us here tonight. Thank you, and we will be back tomorrow for more Worlds 2019. We will see you then.
Give me 8 more games. Let's go.
Yes, still very hard to see as Bosto potentially in trouble. Good bit of damage now coming out. A lot of healing coming in. Demonte's going to go right in the midst of it. He gets one. The Aatrox is massive. Hooney is sticking around, and Boss is going to get knocked back. He's going to get out.
Which means the later the game gets, the smaller a mistake could lose it for YOLO. Here we go.
Comes the big fight, trying to find the stun. That's going to be a 3-minute stun. A beautiful ultimate immediately kicking off. The Fiddlestick in the background saying, surprise, surprise. Doesn't even need to land.
There it is.
The double kill coming in. DFM slowly and steadily pushing forward, but they're all grouped up now. Here it is! Here comes a massive ult, but no! Emmy stops it in its tracks. Vizichachi is not able to get everything he wants. Kami still kicking off the fight in the favor of Spikes. GA now coming in, Steel trying to retreat. He will live. Vizichachi has gone down. King still wreaking havoc through the backline. King still so incredibly strong. King is going to be the difference maker. Wait for the stun again. The feathers will come back. It does not matter. The triple kill for King. Well, Angelus opens up onto Steel. Gang jumping onto the backline. They get this out away. This is down. But look at the damage coming back in response. Saya getting in from the side. Emmy jumps in with an R. DFM holding onto the game, holding onto their lives. 5,000 HP left on the Elder. We're Angelus. Here he comes. What Angelus, the angel for Isuus Gaming.
DFM Isuus. What a game!
This may seem harsh, but it was one of the worst games of League of Legends I've ever watched.
Destiny jumping in, trying to get onto Hooney, but look at how tanky that Rise is. The charm coming out, the quickness is enough, and Mammoth are falling to pieces. A double for Cody, he's going in. He wants the Penta, but it's stolen away from him. 2,000 HP left on it. Oddie rooted up, he's in the pit. It's taken by Kobe and Oddie. Oddie falls, here comes Saya from the side. One up straight away. Saya down. Kobe with the shot to the back of the mid laner. No man's doing as much work as he can in the middle of the fight as the Nanasix still has the G8 to come up. Inax jumps forward, yet to see a unicorn fall. Inax jumps in, Triple trying to survive, but up he goes. Unstoppable Force isn't enough. Leo misses the cocoon. Demonte eventually falls. The Unicorns of Love, though, all low. Hook from Vulcan onto Boss, goes into the realm of death. Inax jumped on the backline by Hooney, who gets one. He's looking for more. That's two for him. This could be an easy triple for Hooney.